Doubt is for the clergy. I used to work, I did an internship at a counseling and psychotherapy spot that was run by religious people. It was Catholic. They were Catholic people. You know, my boss was a nun, and a couple of the other counselors, therapists were priests. We talked about stuff. It was a weird year. It was a very weird year as an atheist, existentialist, psychologist. Yeah, it was very strange. But it wasn't bad. People were, they're very accepting and open-minded, and half of them were into existentialism. Again, when you travel in existential circles, like half of the people you know are going to be failed seminarians, and half of the things that you read are going to be books by people with various religious backgrounds. You know, Martin Buber, a Jewish theologian, and Paul Tillich, a Protestant theologian, and so on. Adrian Van Kam, who's a Catholic, and a Catholic priest, and so forth. So it was a weird year, but it wasn't a bad year. One day, sitting in a room sitting in a room at the center, with my feet up on a stool, drinking coffee between clients, and I get into this conversation with another counselor, and I just start asking questions like, "This isn't how I thought it was going to be here." People seem really open about it, but the clients really do not. Like, some of the clients are uber Catholic. And the answer that I got was, doubt is for the clergy. Yeah. In seminary school, priests are exposed to every possible reason they could possibly have for leaving the faith. They're challenged. They're challenged every day to leave the faith. And it's not exclusive. It's not exclusive to Catholicism. A friend of mine from India described the Kama Sutra as temptation. The point of the Kama Sutra, the reason for all the weird erotic carvings around the outside of some temple walls, is before you get on a path of celibacy and enlightenment, you have to see what you could be missing. It's kind of informed consent. In the way it was described to me, it's a kind of informed consent just on the part of the planet she was from and her experience. See everything that you're missing, so that later you've already rejected the temptation. You can't be tempted away from the path. My friend at the counseling center meant something different. He meant, you're going to be exposed to the fact that the books of the Bible were chosen almost arbitrarily at a conference a couple of thousand years ago, and they were put in the order they were put in somewhat arbitrarily at that conference. There were books left out, and they were left out deliberately because they were constructing a unified and coherent picture of Christianity the way they wanted it to be portrayed from that time forward. You'll be exposed to the fact that Jesus was not the first Son of God to be born in a manger and crucified as a gift to humanity from his Father. There are lots of crucifixion stories. Like oh my goodness, ancient cultures are just replete with ancient stories of floods, and like every book in the Bible ultimately is a retelling of some other story about gods and divinities. The Bible that people read today is modified. We have long, intense records of the modifications. You know, we have the Bibles were copied and recopied and recopied, and we have some of them in the process of being recopied, and we have notes in the margins about how it got to be this way instead of that way, and those reasons are not always on the up and up. They're not always super honest. In seminary school, the prospective priest is just given every reason, every excuse to abandon their faith. And so at the end of all of that teaching and training, they sort of have to get to where Paul Tillich was. Paul Tillich, the Protestant, saying that faith is belief in the presence of doubt. Faith is belief in the presence of doubt. If you have no doubt, then what you have isn't really faith at all. There's no reason for faith. What you have is certainty. And certainty doesn't require faith. Certainty is certainty. Certainty is just the absence of any conflicting information. It's being brought up in a tradition and told that tradition is true, and thinking anything different is some sort of sin. It's not a wholesale rejection of evolution after hearing all of the facts. It's the refusal even to gather any of the facts, to look at any alternative facts, because they come from the devil. That's certainty. That's not faith at all, not in the view of Tillich. Yeah, faith in this view would be doing all of that work, going through seminary and learning all the reasons not to believe that the Bible's infallible and the Pope is infallible, learning not to believe in any miracles, and then believing it anyway, not as some sort of obdurate exercise, not in learning to reject the evidence of the senses and reject academia, but believing all those reasons are true, and being able to stand apart from all of those reasons and still experiencing faith or a calling. That requires getting pretty comfortable with paradoxes. That requires being able to stand in two positions at once. If only more of us could stand in two positions at once. Comfort with ambiguity is predictive of a lot of mental health and good child-raising practices, healthy families, participation in democracy, and ultimately rejection of fascism. What my friend was telling me was that the priest does all of this work, does the intellectual heavy lifting, so that the congregation doesn't have to. The priest absorbs all of the doubt and has their complicated faith so that the congregation can have a simpler kind of faith, a more fundamentalist faith, because they're not really capable of, en masse, engaging with doubt at this level. The priest eats the doubt. The priest protects the congregation from doubt. It made me much more sympathetic to my friend, the Catholic priest. And also less. If we accept, well, we don't have to accept, but if we accept Paul Tillich's contention, which my friend was very much telling me he did, then protecting the congregation from doubt protects them from faith. Doubt is for the clergy. These videos are a way of me inviting you into doubt.